What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Elaine Financial Group podcast. Today, I have a very, very special guest for you guys. I like to call him the godfather of recruiting. I don't know about anybody else, but he's definitely at the top of the list in our company when it comes to recruiting and basically anything that has to do with financial services. He's a very smart guy. He was a college professor for many, many years, retired early, and kept going with a new career, still helping everybody out, just like he loves to do. And he was gracious enough to come and sit and tell us about that. I love his story. I've heard it before. I think you guys are really going to like it. So without further ado, Mr. Larry Nieman, thank you for joining us.
Jacob, thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to it.
Beautiful. All right. So let's, like with everybody, let's hear about you first. Where are you from? Let's hear your life story. With you, because I do know a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to hear some of the, you know, how you got to be the college professor, your upbringing, and then
Yeah,
kind of what led you to here as well.
sure. Of course, of course. Well, it all starts. I'm originally from mid-Michigan. I'm from Saginaw, Michigan. I am the youngest of four, two amazing parents. My mother was in education. My father was in skilled trades. And again, just very, very close-knit family. Love vacations and, doing stuff together. Growing up, I thought I definitely know I wanted to help people. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I also thought I wanted to be a priest, but I also wanted to have children. And it's so weird because all of a sudden it just clicked. I'm like, oh, Mom's been a teacher for, decades. Why didn't I think about that? So lo and behold, moved from kind of a doctor nursing mentality to kind of the teaching.
Mhm.
Um, I did go to the University of Michigan, go blue, and Central
Go
Michigan
blue.
University for business. Um, and shortly thereafter, I moved to Chicago. So started in Michigan, moved to Chicago, like the big city feeling, but it was very close to home. I could get home, in a couple of hours, if that makes sense. Well,
That's
depending on
like
where
a
I was.
day trip.
Was that?
That's like a day trip.
Yeah, exactly. Less than I can, and I'll get to a story that, so being in Chicago, I transitioned to Chicago. Was working with Franklin Crest, the time management company, and I actually
Mhm.
opened the retail location on Michigan Avenue. That's what got me here. But I knew I wanted to transition into other opportunities, so I started working for CitiBank and residential lending, and then business lending. Again, great start from a financial perspective. Always had an interest in numbers and finances. Was a co-op student at Dow Chemical and accounting. I just loved numbers. And so, when I got to Chicago, I applied to a couple universities to adjunct teach. And lo and behold, when I transitioned out of Franklin, when I opened up the location, I then transitioned to Citibank. And within a couple of months of that same, starting time, I got an opportunity to teach an accounting class for, lo and behold, my employer for 26 years, Robert Morris University, Illinois. We're a private nonprofit uh, institution. My office was downtown Chicago, a block off Michigan Avenue, and again, absolutely, I started teaching in the evening. So I remember for a 5 year span, I taught three classes a quarter for 5 quarters, pretty much all year for 5 years. And at that time, I was with Citibank. Um, and I got the opportunity to move into a full-time faculty role with the university after 5 years at Citibank. I was vested, so I decided to go to higher ed full-time. But at that time, I was teaching accounting, intro to business, entrepreneurship. Those are probably my three favorite classes. And so absolutely loved it. Time goes on. I become associate dean for the School of Business. Then I become dean for the School of Business for the largest school within the university. Our full-time equivalent in terms of students was right around 5,000 students. At least half of those were business students. So I'd say, at least 2,500 students were in my school of. And then our president at the time retired, and the provost moved to the president's position, and I was one of seven deans in line for provost, and I became provost after being dean for the School of Business for 3 years. Um, in the midst of all that, again, we're starting, that's a 26-year span.
Mhm.
Um, I very entrepreneurially. I actually am a gourmet dessert baker, so I actually used to produce my desserts for a restaurant in Chicago. I didn't want them to do a quota because I want it was more of a passion type thing. So I'd go into the restaurant's kitchen once a month and produce, several carrot cakes. Carrot cakes are my specialty. Um, Also, I was involved with real estate. So the nice thing with higher ed, as a faculty member, it was easy for me to do, things on the side per se. But once I became dean, it was a little bit more difficult because with, more responsibility takes more of my time. Absolutely loved it, but um, you know, when I became dean, I was also single, didn't have a family. Well, during my deanship, I uh, have a partner, and then the idea of kids. So actually, uh, I've been a foster parent for about 13 years. And our first foster son actually um, moved in age 5, and we adopted him. And fast forward, he's now a senior in high school. So um, again, just loved having the family perspective. And once we you know decided we wanted to have a family, we decided to move a little bit north. We just wanted a little bit more structure, stability, and a little bit more space for Ethan in the city. We were in a 20,000 or 2,000, not 20,000. That'd be great. I'd be a gazillionaire. A 2,000 square foot condo with maybe a square foot of green space. If you look behind me, that's our house a little bit north of the city. We're on 7 acres with a 2 acre lake, and we actually have 7 goats, 2 dogs, a cat, and a human for all rescues. So I like to call it our staycation. The trees that line the driveway are 100 feet tall pine trees, and we have about 75 of them on the property. So absolutely just love our space. And so when we moved here, I was actually dean and just about to become provost. And so um, we moved. I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, had the 4:47 train downtown, and sometimes in late because of my university responsibilities. I absolutely loved the job, but the work-life harmony was pretty non-existent. So literally, after 26 years, at the ripe old age of 49, I did separate from Robert Morris, and we were thinking about a consolidation, so it was probably in my best interest anyway. So um, but again, at 49, I wasn't ready to hang things up. Kind of was going back and looking at the financial universe, and um, like I know I can make a difference here. I know I want to do more here, and so I really started investigating the the captives and the independence and whatnot. So I just spent a couple years just really exploring and saying, how do I want to where do I want to be my footprint in the financial world? So, um, got my life and health licensure and dibble and dabbled with a couple firms, really not connecting, so on and so forth. And at that time too, I was also doing some consulting, adjunct teaching. So, again, just was taking a little transition time from after being in higher ed for 26 years. What do I want to do when I grow up? So, so literally, I was probably involved in, dibbling and dabbling for about 4 years. Then I aligned with FFL. Again, love FFL, independent, obviously, good producer model. But I really wanted to develop other people. Again, being education and education for 26 years, it's in my blood. And so the idea of growing was very, very powerful, but also being with an organization where I can have a mountaintop to be able to educate people. Because again, you're looking at the stats out there, 97% of people are not ready for retirement, which just blows my mind. And so I really felt that I how do you want found my essence in terms of being able to do that now kind of within the financial services. So was geeking about that. I really felt that I did the structure at FFO really wasn't geared towards building, and the systems, weren't in place, so on and so forth. And then I was a top producer for F&G a couple years back, and went a trip to Scotland, and that's where I connected with Evan Schlang, one of our APs here at Real Financial. And I was talking to him more from a lead standpoint because
Yeah.
he's a huge expert on obviously marketing and lead generation. And at that time, I
Very,
was,
very good at it.
yeah, yeah, I was my own agency. I was trying to build my own agency with an FFL. But then he started talking about Real Financial, just support, so on and so forth. Obviously, founder Brad Lee, who I've never met before, knew anything about until I talked to Evan in Scotland. So he got back. I was kind of probing him a lot more about the organization and learning a lot more. And just the idea of the builder mentality was huge, and this the education. So I just really felt that was a great fit. So I transitioned to Real Financial. Would have been last November. So I've been in, I'm still kind of a baby. I haven't even hit a year. But again, when you know that something's a fit, then it's pretty easy.
Mhm.
As you know, I love supporting people. I love to take a leadership role. I've had a lot of experience, and I want to be able to be, supportive to others that, come in the organization.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah, so here we are now. Yeah, again, been with Real for let's say close to 8 months, 9 months. You do the math. I used to do it on a calculator, but just actually loving it, just building, building a good team, but really, really want to leave a legacy of being able to support others using the knowledge that I have. I want to transition that to other people. And I'm very, very patient. I love working with people. I've worked with obviously, you know, college students for
Mhm.
26 years, and I oversaw 120 faculty, which is like herding cats, and that. But again, just love Real Financial, love our culture, the support system, the training, the financial scoring, and so it's a complete organization, and just really looking for us to explode in terms of growth in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
And that's you said something that really it really makes sense now to me. Is you went on, that little subsection for 2 minutes about wanting to build, like the leadership, wanting to help people just by teaching. Because obviously you did it for so long. You did it for 26 years teaching. So obviously you love to teach. I mean, you don't
Hmm.
teach, especially in higher education, for 25 plus years if you don't love it.
Hmm.
But that's kind of why I call you the godfather of recruiting, because it's constant. Like
Yeah.
we have a little group chat for everybody in our company, and it's constant. I'm constantly, at least once a week or once every 2 weeks. Larry's popping in. Hey, we got a new business partner. He's the most consistent with it by far. I don't think it's close. I'm sure probably everybody would agree with me on this. Larry's smiling because Larry doesn't like when you say stuff like this, but it's true. But hearing how like genuine the passion that you say that with, it makes sense now. Because I always was like, man, like I know Larry's good, but like, how does he know all these people? Like, how does he do it? Like it's like that you're chasing that brass ring kind of thing. Like, how does Larry do this?
Yeah.
Like, how does he know this many people? How is he so confident with it? And then you say that, and you can see it in your face and how you're reflecting it just in a conversation of how much you love doing stuff like that.
Yeah. And one important thing too is as I retired, I also got involved with career coaching,
Mhm.
and I've been doing that a lot more. But so I actually work with people every single day that are in job transition. So it's natural that just what I do on the other side of my career meshes, because if people are looking for wealth building, then I can help them. But if they're looking for a career transition, I can help them. And financial services could always be an avenue, if that makes sense. So I'm just really blessed with obviously the business that I created before Real Financial, and how wonderfully it meshes the two. And I'm not full time at Real Financial. I'm technically part time,
Mhm.
and I've often said, "Hey, do I, give up the career coaching?" But you know, that would cut off a lot of lead sources for me and a lot of good business. So both of what I do with the career coaching and with the financial services is still helping my community. And
And
so
they
the
connect.
yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not gonna, I don't think one's better than the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because again, it's for me, helping the community, whether that is youth, animals, adults, or anyone, That's super important. So I am able to, I'm 100% altruistic, so helping is important to my essence. And
Mhm.
so knowing that I'm doing both those, it's a double satisfaction.
Yeah, and for anybody that's listening that's been seeing this, anybody that's friends with me, friends with Larry, whatever, listen to what he just said. He's doing this part-time. Larry's one of the guys that's an AP, which is the top level that you can achieve at the moment at our company. He hasn't been doing it a year. He's doing it part-time. That's part of the beauty. And I know this because me and you have talked about this, part of the beauty of the sales pitch or the sales pitch, quote unquote, like when you're recruiting somebody, it's like, hey man, you can work your own schedule.
Hmm.
I remember Derek telling me, if you have a job, do not quit.
Yeah.
Keep your
Yeah.
job. Do this part-time. It's that flexibility that makes it enticing. Like,
Yeah. And
man, I can do
it's,
that on my own.
yeah,
I don't have to report to anybody.
exactly. And that's what I was going to mention.
Like,
I mentioned to a couple of people who are in captive organizations, and question is do I have to keep hours? I'm like, no, again, this is your own business. I want to support you with your own business. You run it how you want to run it. We have the tools that allow you to be able to grow. But if you want to work at 10 o'clock at night, you can. But there's no time clock to punch because again, you're your own boss.
yeah, like you don't, Evan always says it. You don't have to call Evan or yourself or Derek and go, hey man, I'm taking a vacation.
Yeah,
You do that just
yeah,
because, like, hey, by the way, like I'm gonna be on vacation. If
yeah,
you need me, call me. But just so you know, like if I'm not responding, I'm on a vacation. And
yeah.
you
Because
do that to be
I'm,
nice.
I'm,
You do it to be nice.
I'm, yes, yeah. I'm more. I know we're both plugged in. So if we're not plugged
Yeah,
in, they're going to say, "What's wrong?"
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, if Larry disappears, everybody's gonna get worried. Um, so when you were talking with Evan, you're in Scotland. So you kind of you hit
Yeah,
one of the questions here, but that's actually good so we can put this into one. So you talked to him in Scotland. How long were you guys there?
we were in Scotland for like 4 or 5 days.
Okay. Did you meet him like on the way over there? Or, like how did that work?
Yeah, no, I never met
By
Evan
chance,
until
you guys
we've
walked into like a bar and it was like, oh hey, I'm here with
no
FNB.
there
Oh my,
we
hey, like
we met before we were checking into our hotel and they were doing
okay,
tours. So we actually ended up going to the tour together and we met doing a tour of some of the sites within Edinburgh.
okay. So you guys talk. Um, did you guys talk a lot about it during the whole week when you were there, or was it more just kind of like, hey, like I'm here, you're here? How did that
Yeah,
go?
yeah, no, we hardly talk shop at all.
Okay.
But like I said, I think we're at dinner one night. We sat across from each other. Um, I think I connected just because he's such a great, you know,
Oh yeah,
guy, just very likable, very
extremely.
easy to connect. And he, at the time, he had taken his dad there, and so it's just really cool
Hmm.
to spend time with him. So it was nothing business oriented until probably like the middle of the trip, maybe day 2 or 3. And I just started talking about, lead perspective, da da da. He again, obviously he knew his stuff, and so that was just really intrigued because I've been frustrated with kind of how do I build my own leads versus going through a system, so on and so forth. So he had a lot of context. It really probably wasn't until the very end where we started talking a little bit more about just real financial, but just
Hmm.
very cursory. It
Yeah.
wasn't too deep. And then when we got back, it was really when I met with him, again about leads, and then
And how
talked to him.
long in between getting back and you guys reconnecting about him saying, hey, or is it him asking, hey, are you looking for this opportunity, or do you initiate that?
I actually initiated. He didn't. I mean, I was really intrigued and curious just because I really, really wanted to build, and I was a little frustrated. And we're talking. He goes, "Oh yeah, with Brad Lee, we have Brad Lee, leads, so on and so forth,
Mhm.
and that's what just really, um, really was intriguing to me. So I would really say I think I started talking to him like a couple weeks after we got back, which was I would say, you know, August, early
Yeah.
August. Hmm.
And then when
And
do you decide to join on?
um, it's interesting because at the time I had a business partner, and so I was doing a lot of communication and correspondence with Evan, and I really realized probably by October that I definitely wanted to move over, but I really had to, um, also talk to my business partner who, at the time I knew more than she did. So, I kind of knew probably around mid to end of October. And then, like I said, we transitioned probably about a month later. I wanted to get my business partner on board, and it was great. And yeah, so it was again relatively quick. But the thing is, when you're looking at transferring to another agency as an existing producer, with contracting, it becomes a little bit of a nightmare
Oh, I can imagine.
because obviously I have business pending. So with some carriers, there's that wait period, so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And that did take a little bit of time with a couple of the carriers, but um, got fully in tune. And then I actually went to the um, live event in January. So really, I was there probably not even a month and a half, and I was able to meet everyone in Vegas, which was great. And again, I'm always a proponent of, when there's events, show up, especially if you want to grow within the organization so people can see you, can talk to them. Just the communication and the comments and the sidebars and just the
Yeah.
overall training is, it's life changing. So
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference for anybody that wants to grow.
Okay. Let's kind of piggyback on that a little bit.
Sure.
Networking. Me and you, we've had a couple conversations about, you know, networking, like you just said, there's events go to them because you don't know who you're
Yeah.
going to be. You don't know what you're going to take away, right? All those kinds of things. So I know that you just have this just massive network of people
Hmm.
that you've just met over the years.
Yep.
How does that happen? Like, have you always been like that? Did you have to learn that? Like, how do you maintain all them relationships? Like I won't say the number because I know you told me the number. I know it. I'm not going to say it, but like, how do you maintain knowing that many people?
Well, again, I think I don't want to say segments. I think I told you before coming to Real Financial, I probably have about, 11,000 LinkedIn connections. A lot from my education days, a lot from my career coaching days. Um, yeah, there's probably, I would say I don't consistently keep in contact with 11,000 people. It's, like
Mhm.
maybe 100 at a time per se. But the thing is I think when you treat people right, and I provide good, I mean, I was pretty well known and I was very successful in my higher ed days.
Mhm.
And I've heard other people from other schools. I wish Larry was my dean, because
Mhm.
again, I support my faculty, my people. I have their back, and I want to, promote them. So people know that I'm, for them. So um, I think that sustains long term. So I think if you go back to somebody that I met 15 years ago, they'd speak very highly of me.
Mhm.
Um, I never ever, you know, try to cross any bridges or whatever or whatnot. If something's bad, I try to resolve it in a positive manner. And I think just, one thing, my mother had just passed, but she told me she never gave tons of advice, but because she wanted us to be our own person. But she goes, kindness and a smile go a long way. And so, yeah, I really took to that heart being very young. And I personally feel that I'm a very kind person. In Latin class, when in the ninth grade or 10th grade, all of your peers named you and they called me Nitidus, which stands for nice.
Mhm.
You know,
I actually knew
um,
that. I took Latin as well.
yeah.
I did know that.
And so, again, I'm blessed to have started out really well, positive, and yeah, when I go into a room, I like to work the room. I like to be able to meet every single person in the room.
And you
Where
know what?
other,
I can
what's
I
that?
can say this. Obviously we haven't met in person yet, but we're on Zooms every week. You know,
Mhm.
anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. Or me and you phone conversations, texting, stuff like that. Larry has got to be the smiliest person I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen the guy mad. I've never seen him not smiling and laughing and just like one of the nicest, most genuine people.
Thank you. Thank
Doesn't and it
you.
doesn't come off like you're doing it to
Yeah,
butter it,
it's
like you're just a good dude. And
yeah, yeah.
I like
And
that's
it
why I
well,
like talking.
it takes more energy to frown than to smile, so I need a lot of energy. So
And that's something that I'm working on.
indeed, indeed.
Um, do you of those 11, those 11,000 people on your LinkedIn,
Yeah.
how many people have come to you since you've started this journey at Real Financial saying, "Hey man, what's up with that?" Like, do you get that a lot, or does it
Well,
kind of, is that kind of like a separate bit?
yeah, actually, no, I have to admit that I am not the best at social media. That's one of my goals for the upcoming year is to, I mean,
You and me
pretty much,
both.
yeah, pretty much LinkedIn is the only thing that I work with. I mean, I didn't have a Facebook account until a few years back when my niece said, Uncle Larry, you're missing all the pictures of the kids. I'm like, okay, let me do a Facebook. But so Facebook, TikTok, yeah, I need to beef things up.
Mhm.
But and again, really, when you're looking at, I'm doing it part time. So with the mountaintop, I think with the BPMs, the business presentation meetings, obviously that's going to be a huge help both virtually and in person. Um, I think virtually so that I can really get it out to the people that I know. Okay. But also BPMs for, attracting new potential agents and new potential business. Um, so, but yeah, I have to say that I have to do much better at social media. I think if I was out there, more people may come to me, but I've pretty much been reaching out to those most recent people. And yeah, I think I may have mentioned in a conversation that I did very well in the month of April with bringing in agents, and um, I don't think I've really tapped the surface of my network, so there's a
Yeah.
lot more to focus in on. Um, so yeah, I pretty much am reaching out to people with what I do, just because of again, I like the segment of the time that I have.
Yeah.
I want to be kind of in control of that.
All right.
I'm the
Well,
type of I'm the type of person that if somebody reaches out, I want to get to them, at least acknowledge them, if not give them the answer within 24 hours.
yeah, anytime I text you, even if you can't answer right there, say, hey, I'll get to you by at least the end of the day, tomorrow
Mhm.
or today or tomorrow, like whatever it is, depending on the time of day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so obviously you have had a plethora of different experiences throughout your entire life.
Well, many, many,
Higher
yes.
education, career coaching, financial services.
Hmm.
Take all of that,
Hmm.
put it all in a bit, right? And somebody like myself, a younger person in their 20s, get started either, whether they're right out of college or high school, somebody like myself who's a little bit, 27 and I'm starting a brand new career. What would be your biggest advice? And it's not career specific, just what would you tell somebody like if you could go back to yourself in your 20s and go, oh, wish I would have done that. What's that one thing that you tell everybody when they're getting started with any career?
I would say, find the one thing that you love or have passion for
Mhm.
and become the expert at it. You know, absorb it, give it time, be patient with it. Um, because I think a lot of times, and I'm thinking of a 17-year-old, but I think this generation feels like they can multitask and they can do 15 things at once. But really, when you're doing 15 things at once, it's hard for you to be 100% at one thing. And I think, um, and I remember Mr. Allington, my 10th grade geometry teacher, who said, I flunked English, but I'm a really good math teacher. He was. He goes, you have to be good at one thing. Okay. So yes, it's okay to, try things, so on and so forth. But when there's that something that, you love and you can do, you know, absorb yourself in it. Again, I think that when you know a little bit more than somebody else, then that's going to get you, the deal, so on and so forth. So hopefully that makes sense. Because again, I see just with kids in general, in my experience with it being in higher ed, um, again, that commitment to one thing to really focus in and make you great, I think happens a little bit later. And so I'd encourage people to kind of be mindful of it earlier on.
Yeah, I wish I would have had somebody say that. No, I'm kidding. My parents told me that, but when I was younger, I had a son, so I didn't listen. I found something I was okay at, okay to good, and I know a lot of people, especially people that I know, you know, we did what we thought we had to do because of family reason.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And yeah. And just one other thing that I want to add in there,
yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
yeah,
but
no, you're
I
good.
I think it's also important to find role models.
Yeah,
When you come into anything, you're not going to be the expert, but again, I think that goes well within our business, and we've been communicated to many times is, you know, find somebody that's producing, find somebody that's successful.
yeah,
As I played tennis as a youth, you want to play tennis with somebody who's better than you if you want to get better. So
hmm
I'd always look to find somebody who's a little bit better or a lot better.
yeah,
And that's a person who I'd normally, grow from, if that makes sense, on the tennis
mhm,
court.
yeah,
And I think it's really important that, think about it, you can't do it. Most things you can't do all by yourself in terms of a career or in something that you want to be good at. So
I'd be surprised if you could find a single career that is like,
yeah, exactly. So commit to it, give it patience, absorb it, do everything you can to master it, but no, you do it with support.
yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. Just kind of like on my personal experience, like on that, like I was, was it 19 or 20, whatever I was, I think it was 19. And I'm at my dentist office and I had just stopped playing hockey. Like I was done. I didn't want to do it anymore. And the receptionist at my dentist office, I said I wanted to get into being a diesel mechanic. I didn't know how to turn a wrench the right way because wasn't interested in stuff like that as a kid. So I didn't know what I was doing. She's like, "Oh, well, my husband is a diesel mechanic. He grew up on some farm in Iowa, so he's been doing it since he was like 6."
Hmm.
So she gives me his phone number. I call him up, just looking for some advice. He'll come to the shop and I'll kind of show you. And like you can, and he openly was like, and you'll know by the time that you leave if this is something you want to do. Walk in, never met this guy before in my life. Literally never talked. I'd known him for like 2 days. We're walking around. He's showing me all the stuff. He's explaining kind of how it works. And next thing I know, I'm in the office signing a piece of papers to go get a drug test, and I got a job.
Great.
Show up 2 days later. I'm like, what am I doing here? And he's like, what do you know? I was like, nothing. And I mean, he's still one of my absolute best friends to this day.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, I always joked with him. I always joked I had two dads at that point in my life because him and my dad are the same age. And to this day, I can call him at any point and we talk. And I'll
Hmm.
never forget one of the first things he told me was, you don't know nothing. Shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth and listen, and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything that he told me just on this, and this is why I'm bringing this up because he brought up have a good role model. I would
Yeah.
never have made it as long as I did as a mechanic if I didn't have him.
Right. Right.
Because he told me from go, you don't know nothing. You're a kid. Every person that you meet for the next at least 10 to 15 years is going to be smarter than you, whether you know it or not, because they've been doing it longer. The experience of it. And so I learned that early
Hmm.
to the point where when I still was wrenching, I would call him.
Hmm.
Like if there were certain shops that I don't know, just different ways of doing it, especially when I used to live in Florida. There's a different way of learning or doing things than it is up in the north. I would call him instead of asking somebody in my shop. Hey, I'm gonna step outside for a minute, and I call him up and I tell him the problem, and he go, do this, this, and this. Okay, and then like 3 hours ago, he'd go, did it work? I'm like, yeah, Tim, it worked. Like you made it, but we had a different kind of relationship, but like it was a role model to go off of,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I very much, very, very much agree with you need to find somebody and find it quick when you're starting because again, I did it for almost 8 years and I would have never made it that long if it wasn't for him.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I got
And,
fired
and
from that shop after 3 months. They were like, "You don't know what you're doing." I was like, "I told you that when you hired me."
yeah.
Like,
Well, and I think again, when you look at Real Financial, there's definitely a lot of mentors here that would, are more than ready, willing, and able to support
everybody,
others. Yeah, yeah.
everybody.
And I think that type of mindset and behavior attracts others who want the same. I've seen some new people come in, really wanting to make a difference and help, and that's just gonna create a huge growing Real Financial.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go off that. Um, you're talking to a new recruit, right? Somebody that's reached out, whether it's through Brad Lee, somebody you know, whatever it is. You're having a conversation about the opportunity. In your eyes, what is this opportunity and why should somebody choose us over, a different company? So two-pronged question.
Yeah. Let me do the last part first. I
Mhm,
think why do it is if people want to help people make a difference, this is probably one of the most needed industries to help and support people.
mhm,
Okay. And you get paid pretty handsomely doing that.
mhm,
Again, as you know, I'm already retired. I'm not doing it necessarily for the money. I'm doing it to make a difference in my community, helping others. Okay. So that's a huge part of my why. Um, if you're doing it just because you're looking at sales, I mean, I think you can be successful, but there could be something missing, and that may come through with clients, so on and so forth. So maybe if you're successful with 2 out of 3, maybe it's 1 out of 3 based on, again, you have the sales mentality versus wanting to help people. Again, not saying you can't be successful because there's some pretty amazing salespeople who do really well. So I don't want to discount that. But um, again, I align with a lot of people who are like me. So again, most people want to make a difference or help their community, so on and so forth. So I said, that's a no-brainer. Why not get into financial services? I think a lot of people, when you say financial services, get a little scared because they're thinking numbers. I don't like numbers. I don't like accounting, but it
mhm.
really isn't. It's really basic. So I think
It's a lot
to
simpler than people realize.
yeah, exactly. Um, so that's kind of that why aspect. But then why Real Financial? I think from a lot of things I mentioned to you in my transition, I like to say that Real Financial has some competitive advantages.
Hmm.
You know, one, the training. Two,
Yeah.
the fact that we have a great influencer in Brad Lee from the standpoint of being able to what organization can you go to get potential agent leads? You know, I've never heard of another one. Okay. I'm sure there's some out there. I just don't know of them. Um, and so that was a second. The third is our financial scoring tool, which is great. It really levels the field so that everybody is consistent and we're asking all the questions. If somebody comes to you with final expense, if you do a financial scoring, you're going to understand that, oh my gosh, they left their company last year and they have it's sitting there, their 401k is sitting there. Maybe that's a possible conversation about annuity, so on and so forth. Um, I really feel that our systems, the real back office, relatively new, but absolutely awesome because everything is in there. Again, you can get to the training from there. You can get to the financial scoring, so on and so forth. So it's very, very integrated, which I think is not necessarily always the case when you're looking at other organizations. But our systems are phenomenal. I personally feel that our fifth is the culture. I believe that we're a family here at Real Financial. You know, we want to talk to each other, so on and so forth. And I think that's huge. Yeah, we're small right now. Um, as we grow, you may not be able to get to know everyone. After, if we get to an organization of 10,000 people,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, and I think we will have a huge competitive advantage in the next couple of weeks to month as we're working on internal lead system for the different types of individuals coming in and
Mhm.
navigating. So really, it's very easy to say why Real Financial, again, because they're organized. They have the competitive advantages that I just said.
Mhm.
And again, are there others that have the same thing or similar? I'm sure there are. I just haven't explored them to the extent that I did Real Financial. But I always tell people if they're looking at other organizations, great. Look at look at your why. Does it fulfill your why? If there's something about them you want to have conversations about, let's talk about it. I like to compare and contrast.
Hmm.
And Yeah, I don't think is Real Financial for everyone. Maybe not. But if people are looking at starting and getting some good support and looking at growing, Real Financial would probably be a perfect start.
Hmm. I love that answer. And then, so let's say, we get to this next part of it, of this talking to somebody about coming on,
Mhm.
and they hit you with the, well, you know, I come from a blue collar family, myself included, so I can actually say this personally because I've heard this 40 times already since I started. Well, man, that financial service, man, I've heard that's dirty. That's a dirty business. How are you getting over that objection? How are you going to explain, like, hey, yeah, maybe it was 30 years ago when, but this is why, like, how do you explain that from that? Because I hear
Mhm.
it all the time.
And guess what? I don't hear it that often.
Really?
So yeah. But again, if there's some we are created based on our socialization. Okay.
Mhm.
So if somebody had an experience or experiences where, they've heard it or they've experienced it personally, I'll try to peel that back. It's like, well, what is it about financial services that are dirty? Well, everyone's shady. I'm like, well, you know, do I look shady to you? You know, um, and and so again, it's a matter of trying to break down the perceptions because I always tell people in my career coaching business, if it's a perception or a feeling, hold it until we have the facts. Perceptions and feelings could be completely different than the facts. Now, if you're telling me what you're saying, and you have the facts, then awesome. Okay. But if you're basing it on assumptions, feelings, then let's hold it to verify, if that makes sense. Um, so again, I just say, hey, I've been in financial services a long time myself, even before. I mean, I worked for
Mhm.
CitiBank. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the biggest, bank in the world, at least at the time. And so again, I just talk through it. It's like, what's the apprehension? What did you learn? What was your experience? So on and so forth, and just try to peel back the onion.
Yeah, that's what I love about how you handle things. That's why this is one of the reasons I wanted you on this podcast because I've heard this from a lot of people. When I tell them what I do, and they're like, "Ooh, like, come on, man." I'm like, "Look, maybe it was, in the '80s, in the '90s, maybe even the 2000s. I don't know. I
Mhm.
wasn't born in the '80s. I wasn't born until '99, and I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I don't.
Right.
That's not my world that I'm in.
Mhm.
That's kind of how I've gotten around some. Is like that's not the world I'm in.
Yeah, and
Maybe it
it,
was. I don't know because I wasn't there. But this
right,
is what I'm telling you. What we're doing now. This is what we're doing here.
right.
What other
And if
companies are
you,
doing, that's up to them. But this is what
yeah,
our company
but
does.
if you also look at the job trends, I mean,
Mhm.
financial services is one of the most needed, how do you say, um, industries out there. I mean, you're looking at 24,000 financial representative needed each year for the next, 10 years. You're needing the need for 250,000 people to enter into the profession is there. So maybe if it was shady before or whatever, guess what? We need a lot of people to get out of the shadiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally, everybody has that. And I'll say this from my past career as a mechanic. Nobody trusts their mechanic unless it's your best friend or somebody that you really, I can't tell you how many times truck drivers would tell us we were robbing them.
Hmm. Hmm.
They'd have a hole in their radiator, spewing coolant out. They'd be like, no,
Hmm.
you just want money. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, this isn't the '80s, man. Like, we're not trying, like, I was working for Ryder and Penske, the two of the biggest companies on the planet for trucking. And they come in and be like, you're just trying to make $1 off me. Like,
Hmm.
dude, we don't need your $400 to fix this. Like, like, I've seen that just in my young adulthood a lot. And then when I started transitioning to this, started hearing it a lot more,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, but I grew up in that real blue collar environment, you know, and just south of Detroit. A lot of people
Hmm.
around this area, they don't trust it. You
Hmm.
know, it's go
Well,
get your lunchbox and go turn your wrench, go be an electrician, go work for the big three. You
mhm.
know, a lot of that, you know.
I think the biggest thing I think in terms of any type of objection is people saying, "Well, I already have a professional I'm working with.
Yeah.
I have a financial advisor." Great, yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Not trying to replace anyone, but just want to make sure that you're in the best position possible. And that's what I kind of do with my career coaching clients is, when you talk financially, oh yeah, I have a financial plan. That's great. I said, do they know, I want to just give you some information that, take it to them. I'm happy to also have a conversation with them just because, again, we want to put you in the best position possible. And again, when you're looking at the different type of products, a lot of people are in tax deferred and taxation products.
Mhm.
You need to look at the cash, the tax advantage or the tax free products. I think is really important, and it's, I think, important to diversify. So um, again, I don't look at any type of objections or naysayers per se. I look at that as they have lack of information.
How do you, how do I phrase this? It, let's say they do have that wall,
Hmm.
right? They're like, nope, I don't want to hear it. How do you get through that so that you can just say, I'm just trying to tell you the information? Not
Yeah, and I think,
necessarily like, hey man, sign here once I give it to
yeah.
you. Like, how do
Well,
you
yeah,
get through
yeah,
that?
yeah. I never, yeah. I never do that. But
Yeah.
again, normally if there's any type of resistance, I mean, maybe the time that I'm just talking to him, the kid blew up the house, so it's not a good time. I'm just so,
That's a great example, Larry.
yeah. So
And a lot of parents with teenagers are all like, "Oh yeah, that's totally
yeah.
on the table."
So again, there could be distractions, and I think a lot of times you kind of have to be mindful because normally, if you got somebody on the phone for whatever reason, whether it is from a lead or a referral, so on and so forth, um, and they may have filled out a card, but they're saying, I don't remember filling that out. Well, at one point in time, they're seeking information. So I just say, I'm solely here. I'd really like to give you some information. If now is not a good time, can we chat tomorrow or when the fire's put out of the house?
Yeah.
And so, timing could be, kind of really saying, why is there the no? I mean, if it's because, hey, you're shady, I try to obviously pull that back. No, 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 I have 32 seconds or it's the other house is going to blow up. Then, again, respect that. But normally, I personally feel it's easy to combat that. And when I, say, hey, can we reschedule? I'll say the time. I don't want them to say, oh, yeah, I can get to you next week. I'll say, you know, again, if it's not today, I normally would want to do it quickly. You don't want to extend it for, you know, you know, options more than a 24-hour period of time.
Yeah,
If somebody's going on vacation, obviously you respect that. But
100%.
again, I just try to tackle down what the lack of information they're
The problem.
yeah they're putting the barrier up for. So just I think ask questions.
What do you think the biggest mistake that a young agent makes? Obviously, with your vast years in this industry,
Mhm,
I'm sure
mhm.
you've seen a ton of them.
Yep,
What do you think the number one is?
I think the biggest, without any type of doubt or any, young people don't give it enough time. They give it 2 weeks and then they're done. Okay, so
Terry said the same thing.
what's that?
Terry said the same thing. When I asked him that, he was like, they come in think they're going to make $1
Yep,
million in a month. It's
yep,
just not
yep.
going to happen.
Exactly. So again, that's where I think the patients come in, where I mentioned before. If you had any, it does take time to perfect and be good, so on and so forth. I think that by far is the biggest reason is, yeah, people are looking to come in and hit it big quick. if that was out there, everybody'd be doing it, right?
Mhm.
So if you find that next big, quick, hit thing, then I'm sure a lot of people are going to sign up. But
Yeah.
um, if you again are in it, you're giving it the patience, the time, the commitment. Um, you're going to see a lot more people long term in this industry.
So I love that. So obviously, I want to piggyback for a second here, or backtrack, excuse me.
Hmm.
Um, when you're going through an objection with a potential business partner, right? And let's say they're 25, 26, 27. They got a family, and they're like, man, I got to make some money, but I
Hmm.
want to help too. How do you tell them that what we do is like, hey, look, you're not going to hit big quick. Stay with that old trust the process, lingo.
Hmm.
How often have you seen that? And then what do you tell them if they're like, man, I gotta have 10,000 by next month, or my house is getting foreclosed on?
Hmm.
Do you just tell them, hey, look, get that settled and then come back to me? Or do you like, okay, well, let's start doing this part-time? Like how would you go about that?
Yeah, again, I think I'd have to kind of probe and get a little bit more information. I mean, think
Yeah.
blanket, but because as you're saying that, again, it does take time. So I would normally say start at part time. Focus on if something else is there, focus that, but then build because again, it's going to be fairly difficult to get um, you know 10,000 within 30. I'm not saying it can't be done, so
Just harder
um,
when you're first starting.
yeah, yeah. And if you are completely dialed in, okay, yeah, you're going to see much, much more success there. But I think people coming in naturally are a little, um, skeptical, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I don't see a lot of people,
Absolutely.
you know, all in, 24/7, but
Hmm.
there are some out there. That's why, again, I have to talk more to the person, kind of, see their commitment, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Because I personally feel as a support to somebody coming in, if they have that commitment, I want to be able to support them on that, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I
So,
think my answer would be different based on knowing a little bit more, because
more
again, I don't think
information.
there's a blanket response. When you're looking at, hey, yeah, if somebody's saying, hey, I need $10,000 in the um, you know first month, I say, I think we can help you with part of that, achieve that.
Yeah.
You know, um, hopefully that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
100%. And I asked that question because I've told people, doing my field trainings,
Hmm.
different people I've been talking with, and they always go, well, how do I know you're not just trying to make a dollar? Well, because it's just not what we do.
Hmm.
Brad Lee always says it. Well, you guys are going to do this ethically.
Hmm.
I,
Right.
I can't tell you. I've said this on every podcast. I'm going to continue to say it because I think that to me is that's the big separation. Like, yeah, I could sell you something and make 4 grand on it if I wanted to, but it doesn't make sense, and I'm not going to do
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's what alluded to me before. If you're doing it just from the sales standpoint, it's going to come through. Okay. Again, we want to educate and inform, and sometimes that they take a little bit, longer, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and again, I'm not saying that. And for example, field trainings. If you're committed to do, you know, 10 field trainings in a week, we may be able to achieve that.
Yeah,
But if you're looking at one a month, that's not going to be achievable.
100%.
So again, I think I look at that from the commitment standpoint. If they're saying, "Hey, you know, I'm going to book 10, field trainings
Hmm.
in your calendar a week," I said, "Oh, we could probably reach that goal."
It's all on you too to do it.
Hmm.
Brad Blomquist said it. There's nobody coming to save you.
Exactly.
It,
Yeah, yeah.
it's on you to do that. If that's what you want, you got to go do it.
Hmm.
All right. So where I know you said you're pretty much just on LinkedIn for right now. How can people find you on there? Is it just Larry Nieman? You got any numbers attached with it? How can people
Yeah,
find you?
yeah. Well, I'm obviously have my real financials is Larry.Nieman, Lary. If you look at I think my name shows up there,
Yep,
Larry
yep.
Nieman. Um, but yeah, within LinkedIn, I'm Larry Nieman in Chicago. So there's really no LinkedIn. It's not like a Gmail account, but my Gmail is pretty easy. It's Larry Nieman at gmail.com. So I got it early enough where I don't have to put numbers or digits.
All right. Well, Larry, I very much appreciate the time. I appreciate you coming on and giving the knowledge to everybody, and hopefully somebody takes something from this because I've
Sure.
spent many times talking with you, and I always learn something every time I talk with you. So thank you for
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And if you need anything else in the future, please let me know. I'm here to support.
thanks, sir. All right, guys. We will see you guys next time, and thanks for listening.